Good morning. So I started my mapping career back in 2015 before the SEC came out with the Part 107 requirement. I started with the Phantom 4 Pro just to kind of get my feet wet and start getting into figuring out how the drones work, what they're capable of. I have passed that drone on down to family members. And then in 2016, when the Phantom 4 Pro came out, I acquired that. I got my SEC Part 107. And that's when the serious mapping started. So when I started out, there were no books, instructions, training, anything, because nobody had figured it out yet. So my goal was to figure out how to use that drone as a survey tool for survey mapping. I've been doing mapping for 50 years on the ground with conventional survey equipment and with manned aircraft. So the drones come out, I wanted to make that part of my toolbox. So I started working on a solution to do design grade survey mapping with that tool. The Phantom 4 Pro has a mechanical shutter. And that's kind of the going thing that everybody's looking for. So I did acquire the Mavic 2 Pro, which was a little smaller drone. I wanted to test it out. It had a rolling shutter. Now the software that I was using at the time was Pix4D, which has the option to turn on rolling shutter compensation to do mapping with, and it does work. There's plenty of false information, what I call urban myths, on YouTube and throughout the internet that rolling shutter won't do mapping. Well, I can attest that that's a false claim. That's an urban legend. You can do mapping with rolling shutter cameras. You just have to plan things a little differently, use a few more GCPs on the ground, fly a little slower. There's things that you can do to make it work, and use the right software to process it. So then I advanced from that. I acquired the Inspire 2 with 2 cameras. I had the X5 and the X7. And both of those also have rolling shutter. So I had to use the rolling shutter compensation in the software to make them work well. So I don't remember what year it was, kind of the first year that M600 came out with the phase 1 camera combination. Very expensive drone. So I have flown that for a couple of years and done lots of mapping with it. Like I mentioned, it's very expensive. It was around $50,000, $60,000 drone, and it's quite large. It was a huge case, and it was quite heavy. But I got used to it and done a lot of mapping. So moving on up the line, I used it for quite a while, and then I went to, let me see here, I'm just checking my notes here. So the next large drone that I used was the M300 with the L1. Smaller than the M600, easier to set up and pack around, and it has LiDAR. So I've been using that for quite a few years, and I've been mapping with some of our subs that have the M350 and the L2, which the subs are currently upgrading to the L3. I had the Wingtra for a couple of years, another expensive drone. It was around $30,000, the Generation 2. And with that drone I had flown quite a bit. Didn't like it as well as the DJI series, mainly because there are some functions in the flight software and the drone itself and the restrictions that you could only go down to 200 AGL. I do a lot of flying in the metro area and I got to get down to 100 feet. So the wing trail wasn't used in town hardly at all. It was primarily used out in rural areas. So I sold the wing trail, then I got the Mavic 3 Enterprise. And the Mavic 3 Enterprise is my current and favorite drone to map with. I'm going to show it to you here in a minute. I do have the Raptor, which is the same as, let me see what I got here. Mavic 3 Enterprise. So when I sold my wing trail, I got the Matrice 4 Enterprise, which I'll show you here in a bit. The Mavic 3 Enterprise, going back to that, as I used it for quite a while, I bought the Raptor, which is the same drone, but it's manufactured here in the US. I needed it for projects, clients where I could not use a DJI drone, so I used the Raptor. And it's a good drone, I just don't like the flight software that much because it's a little clunky to work. So then the Matrice 4 Enterprise came out. I bought that last year. And I also got the Avata 2 to use for videoing. So let me show you here, just kind of real quick so we can kind of clean the table off a little bit. So the Mavic 3 Enterprise, I'm sure most of you have seen that one. So the Mavic 3 Enterprise with the RTK module. So it does quite well. It does have a mechanical shutter, so you don't have to use that compensation in the software. And it's really a pretty nice little drone to map with. The Raptor, it's the same exact drone with the RTK module, same controller. It just has different flight software, which I mentioned I do not like. So I don't use this one very often, only on projects where I am not allowed to fly the DJI. My favorite drone that I'm using now, pretty much full time, is the Matrice 4 Enterprise. Now Cooper uses the M300 with the L1. Lena at our office and Jeremy, they both use it and fly it. I've flown it for quite a while and kind of handed that one off to them since I have the Matrice 4 Enterprise. Now this is my personal equipment. So the Matrice 4 Enterprise, which is an awesome drone. It's got the RC+2 controller. The drone itself is a little bit larger than the Matrice or the Mavic 3, but this one here has a built-in RTK module. So this combined, you don't have to combine it, but I do combine it. I'll set up the inlet. RS2 is the one I'm running right now. I'll set this up. And I'll get it turned on to the hotspot to my phone. And then I use this arrow pad. The company sent me several of these to test out, and they work really well. It is a subscription service. I just set my inlet on it just as a visual from the imagery, so I can take and collect static here and process that if I need it on a datum. I can turn on the arrow point and run it through their service, which is down in Australia, and they both work well, but I pretty much use this just for RTK, autonomous position, RTK, direct link to the Matrice 4 Enterprise. Now that gives me image centers that are, what I'm seeing lately is with image centers with in reference to each other are about 0.200 in both vertical and horizontal, which is, to me, is amazing. So that allows me to process the imagery without GCPs if I know the position of where I set up the rover or the RTK unit here. Most of the time we're using GCP set by the client or by our survey crews. So I constrain everything to that. So that's why I don't need a known position here, or I don't have to do static. All I'm using it for is get the imagery so that they're on the same reference datum, which is autonomous. And then I adjust that later, constraining it to the ground control points in the software. And it's a sweet little system, quick to set up. I get about, if I fly, I use the waypoint mission. I need to go over that a little bit more. I have done some videos on this particular drone here, how to set it up using the advanced mapping system, using waypoints and terrain follow. So I do have that available on YouTube. And there's a 4-part series, so go take a look at that. But each battery, if I use 3-second interval captures, each battery will get me about 40 acres. If I do 2 seconds, I can get 80 acres out of each battery, which is really sweet, so I can fly a little bit larger projects. And I have 5 batteries. So I can also recharge these with my portable charger to if I need to fly larger sites. But we generally will use our manned aircraft when we get above or close to 300 acres. We'll use manned aircraft because it's actually cheaper for the client than to try to do all the mapping with the drone. This is such a nice drone. I really like this. Now this, just to kind of give you a general price line on this, the setup I have with the $2,000 GPS and the $8,000 here, so about $10,000 right here for this system. Now you can do videography with it and still pictures, but I like to fly in some tight areas, and I don't like the exposed props and risk of crashing it, because I'm not a type of person that likes crashing my drones. So with that, I did get the Avata 2. I actually started with the Neo, and then bumped, when this came out, the Avata 2, I started using this with the motion controller. This is so cool to fly with, and the goggles. With that, I can fly in really tight areas really low to the ground. I'm not worried about crashing or busting my props. And I have plenty of videos on YouTube where you can go watch me flying this around. I use it for project documentation that I can later go back and look at when we're building the planimetrics and the surface files. I can use this as a video reference to make sure everything's looking right. So with that, that kind of gives you my, so this here was, with everything that I have here, probably about $1,000. I already mentioned this was $2,000, and the Mavic or the Matrice 4 Enterprise. This right here is what I take to the field every day when I go out. And then I've got my van, that's Cooper's van. I'll take it out, nice van. I mean, it's got drawers in the back, and it's really the perfect van for going out and doing the missions that I do. I have taken my car occasionally, but only in areas where I know it won't get damaged. But other than that, that kind of should give you an outline of what I have worked up to. Now, just a final note, I did mention the M600 and the Phase 1 camera with the 50 megapixel camera. Takes excellent images, but it takes like a half an hour to set it up back then. It's not even supported anymore, but you know, at a half an hour setup, where this is like 5 minutes. So I reduced my setup time really drastically. And this I can throw in my car, where that big clunky box for the M600 would not fit in. I had to have a pickup truck with a tailgate on it. What do they call that? Anyway, the gate that had the hydraulics on it so I could lift it up. I couldn't lift it up by myself, and I generally go out by myself to do all these flights. So with that, what I have discovered over the years, this $10,000 setup does the same quality of mapping as that $50,000 setup. So you don't need to buy a huge expensive drone to do quality mapping. So it really depends on what your deliverables are. I do survey mapping and some photogrammetry with, you know, for clients when they want stuff for their proposals and stuff, but mostly it's survey grade mapping is what I do. That's what I'm also licensed to do at the state. So I am qualified professional land surveyor, and I am licensed to provide that kind of mapping. Now, what some people run across when they try to get into survey mapping, they run into that roadblock, because mapping is a survey product and you have to be licensed to do that, or team with, your boss has to be licensed, or the company, or team with somebody that has a license. You can't just go out and buy a drone and go do mapping. You have to be licensed in that field as a professional land surveyor. You got to have a real deep understanding of geomatics and map projections. So with all that combined, which I have, you know, I'm fully qualified to provide quality survey grade mapping. So that's basically it. I mean, you can, if you got questions, you can email me directly. My email is on the website, jcroom@cc4w.net. I have a website with many books, about 50 books that I've written, 49 maybe, but a bunch of books that I've written on surveying mathematics and survey mapping. So check those out. I'm now building my YouTube channel to also provide that free training, so that you can get into this if it's a field that you're interested in. So with that, I'd like to say thank you for watching, and subscribe and like and do all those things that YouTube likes you to do, and keep watching. I got more stuff that's coming out. Thank you. Thank you for watching my videos on survey mapping made simple. To see more, like and subscribe.